I noticed that everyone else was saying what they're going to talk about today, so I put it up this morning. I want to reframe the library opportunity. We never think of libraries as opportunities. Let's think of ourselves as the opportunity to make a difference in the world, the big world. Beyond our library, beyond our university, beyond Mexico, the big world, and the difference we'll make. I want to share some language and some positioning, because a lot of us still talk about our tools and our resources instead of the impact and difference we make. I want to talk about leadership and what leadership looks like in our profession, and really getting into the soul of why we need to be leaders for this next generation. We're moving out of a financially driven economy. We've gone beyond an industrial economy. We're moving into a knowledge-based economy. If the accountants and the MBAs could control that financially driven economy, what profession should be a key contributor to a knowledge-based economy? What profession should be talking about the ethics, the principles, the resources, and the way that needs to be managed? Who needs to be the maestro of that song that we're playing on how information has an impact? And I want to talk about national scale programs to position libraries for success. And I mean really big cooperation, not the buying clubs we put together to get discounts on databases, but the real structural impacts we can have and where our teams work well. So what business are you in? We don't like talking about business libraries as businesses, but they are. They're social businesses. We measure our outputs and profits. We measure our outputs in the research record, in inventions, in art and creativity, in cultural properties, in learning. We have a much bigger impact and profit as a measurement. And those companies that care about that stuff make a difference in that space as well. So we need to think about what business we're in. Are we in the business of libraries, or are we in the business of learning? Every day, in every way, libraries are throwing pebbles in the water. One student, one professor, one user, one colleague at a time. What's our ripple effect as we change the dynamics of the world? We invented a lot of this stuff. I met Sergey and Larry when they were founding Google, before they called it Google, when they were still students at Stanford. They were inspired by a librarian, Gene Garfield, an ISI citation indicator, and said, gee, if the most important research is the research that cites other research, maybe the most important websites are the websites that cite other websites. We inspired Google. George Boole, who invented Boolean logic, the underlying piece. I was talking about this on the ride over this morning. He dropped out of school in grade 6 and went to the library. It became so embarrassing that he invented the new math that underpins our entire economy now, that Cambridge and Oxford had to give him honorary PhDs. Because how embarrassing can it be that you can invent a new math only working with the librarians and their interlibrary loan operations? It's a big deal, the difference we make. Yahoo survived because my friend James Dysart showed Jerry Yang how to hire librarians to fix his mess of his directory. The stuff we've helped influence, we don't source our own power in the difference we make. So think bigger. Think bigger the way we're talking about things. You heard several of the speakers yesterday talk about the difference we make with our users. Learning, culture, research impact. Making Mexico have a competitive advantage of nations. The competitive advantage of nations now is based on your people. Who can influence the people of Mexico more than librarians influencing learning, and librarians influencing research and discovery and cultural creation? We need to source our power and talk to the right people. So, let's stop hand-knitting things. We all love hand-knitted stuff. But we're hand-knitting repositories, we're hand-knitting websites, we're hand-knitting LibGuides. We need an industrial revolution in libraries. We cannot clothe the world hand-knitting every reference transaction, hand-knitting every database. We need to find some way on a large scale to start building the influential stuff we're making. If our students are in e-learning, where is the student experience? They're not in the library. The people we see in the library are doing what the library does well, creating a social space, a dynamic space. We help challenge students, we help them go to special events in their lives, but they're experiencing their learning at the lesson level. If we don't move the library to the lesson level of learning in the e-learning objects, whether it's Blackboard or Moodle or whatever, we're going to have trouble thriving. And this is another word we can just get out of our vocabulary. Stop talking about libraries surviving. That is the absolute worst attitude you could have. We want to have conversations about libraries thriving. It'll change your mindset to talk about a thriving library than talking about a surviving library. Surviving library looks backwards. Oh, libraries were so great in the 1960s. They sucked. We had to file freaking microfilms. If you've ever filed microfilms, it was awful. Filed catalog cards. We used to think, oh, we have 2,000, 1,000 periodical subscriptions. And that made a good library. Now we have millions. We reduced the cost per article down to a sub-penny level. Start talking about the impact we have on the good financial management of resources. We used to do things 20 years ago in the most expensive way possible, but the cost per use has plummeted dramatically at the same time as we have a lot more stuff in our library. And we've done it without massive budget increases. We've been very good strategists on understanding our infrastructure and making a difference. How many conversations have you had with your provosts and presidents of your universities and the key financial people talking about how good you are at positioning the dollars more effectively? Or you're talking about, oh my God, my periodical subscriptions went up 6%. Instead of, in that 6%, we got millions more articles this year. And we can support any predicted innovation that might be coming out of the wonderful people that we're supporting on learning and research in this university. So, hand-knitting is lovely, but describe your current situation and see if it meets this model. Does your current situation, you're at the table. Are you at the tables you need to be at? How many people in this room can call the president of Mexico? How many of you can call cabinet ministers? How many of you can get the president of your university to take your call? Are you at the table on national policy discussions? Do you cooperate as true partnerships, all the universities in the country, not just on infrastructure, but on impact? Are you making a difference? Do you have the professional staff that fill the need and adapt to change? We heard yesterday about building more information professionals, librarians in this country. The need for more PhD research in our field. We need to build cultural property so that the Mexican hegemony is, Mexican culture is saved. It doesn't get lost. It doesn't get destroyed. We saw what happened to the Aztec, Olmec, and Toltec libraries where they were totally burned. Only 4 books still exist from those cultures. When you want to destroy a culture, you destroy the library. So if we don't protect our cultural properties, we're in trouble. If we don't protect knowledge and learning, we're in trouble. The human race was saved by Irish monks during the Dark Ages, where they protected the books from the Reformists burning the books in Middle Ages Europe. Are we the Irish monks that are going to protect things through the digitization project so that we keep knowledge and know what's going on? Remember the role of questions. We're in a question-based business. We are not in an information business. Librarians improve the quality of questions. We improve the quality of questions because we put metadata on it so you can find it. We improve the quality of questions so that we select quality materials. Google does not improve the quality of questions to the same degree. Google delivers a great, who, what, where, when, why, the 5 W's. Google does who, what, where, when really, really, really well. Why and how? It's terrible at. It's what you're good at. Education, research is a why and how question. About discovery, creativity, insight, the ability to understand what's happening. When we start talking about our role in questions and the foundation we build, That's different. If we keep talking about foundations, books, databases, websites, buildings, we're in trouble. Because anyone can build a foundation. On a foundation, you can build a warehouse, or you can build a cathedral. You can build a house, or you can build a home. If you can't describe the library in terms that you would describe a home, the experience of a home, versus the way you would describe a house as if it was a real estate listing, it's got a bathroom, a living room, and a garage. We need to start describing our libraries in the context of what the interactions are there and the impact you have on the people who were there. And the people who were there and the impact they have. When I go to the representation of your library, am I going to see a page on every staff member, especially librarians, on that last spec, saying what their strengths are, what their talents are, what they're excellent at? This is our best genealogist, this is our best historical researcher, this is our best researcher. This is how you contact him or her. Here's a picture of them. Or I'm going to go to your website and see you've got books and databases. And I'm going to see a logo that looks like a book or a database. I'm going to see too few pictures of people. Are you about your collections? Or are you about the animation, the enlivenment, the ability to create an experience and what that experience delivers emotionally and changes people's lives? We don't represent ourselves well. We're always talking about that we're not good at marketing. Boy, are we ever not good at marketing. So stop using nouns. If you have people who need to know that the library has books, you have a far bigger problem in your institution than the library being threatened. They know that. You don't need to tell them that. Tell them about the verbs, the action items you do. Verbs are the words that create engagement. Verbs are the words that say you have dynamic strategies, that you are making things happen, that you're doing stuff that matters. Verbs are what matter. When you look at your mission statement, when you look at your vision, when you look at every brochure you put out, is it a list of resources or is it stories that tell the story of the difference you're making in the research stream or the learning stream or the experience stream or the student life of your campus or your organization? Action verbs imply subtly dynamism and impact. Nouns describe something that you could fund like a warehouse. Libraries are not warehouses. We need warehouses. There's nothing wrong with them. But we don't build those warehouses for books and resources and experiences because we want to be a warehouse. We build it because we want to make a difference in life. Admit it. You're a change agent. If you're uncomfortable with change, leave the profession. We've just been through a period of the slowest change in history. 20 years where almost nothing happened. It just happened to happen to the whiniest generation in history, my generation, the boomers. Oh my God, I have to learn to double click, and my phone got smaller. What else happened? You go back to real change, my grandparents, where they got 2 world wars, a depression, interstate highways, indoor plumbing, refrigeration, airplanes, television, telephone, talking movies, all in the space that we got double-clicking. We're about to hit a massive period of change on the scale that my grandparents had. And they adapted quite well. They were known as an awesome generation. Are we ready to prepare libraries for the changes we're about to hit? Some of the stuff that Sharon was talking about yesterday are the infrastructure pieces. Those global metadata vaults that she was talking about are going to fundamentally shift the opportunity on how information flows in society. Fundamentally. And we're playing a role in that. People like Sharon and the people she knows are doing really smart stuff that changes the dynamics of how things happen. Too bad this is true. The future is confusing. It's just going to be. You know what? This is a good thing. It's why they need professionals. If it wasn't confusing, you wouldn't need professionals. You don't need to be educated to help somebody pick the right dress to look good, choose the right meal in the restaurant, You need to have our professional skills to say, what's the infrastructure required for a nation, for a university, for a school to make a difference in life? And that's our opportunity. Let's start talking about it better. Let's start talking strategy and direction planning, not at the institutional level, at the national and global level. This is the stuff that IFLA is heading towards, the WEBO conventions, the national archiving and vaults that are being created. OCLC talks about metadata vaults at a huge scale. DPLA and partnered with Europeana are building amazing things. And then we need to look at libraries as inspiration institutions. What is your role in inspiration? I heard this last week, so I stole it from my friend Josh Hannigarn, who wrote a top-selling autobiography called The World's Strongest Librarian. Highly recommend it. Awesome, awesome book. And Josh said the Greek roots of inspiration are about breathing. In order to live, we have to breathe in. But inspiration also means to breathe into someone else. It's a very powerful two-way thing. So when you're building your library, yes, we breathe in. We make sure we're healthy. We make sure our institutions are good. But our real role is to breathe into our users, to breathe into our faculty, and lift them up, and allow them to lift themselves up. We don't own this. This is a partnership to make that difference. And we're moving too slow. I love this comment. Why is it taking so long? Because I'm a glacier. And some change in libraries seems to arrive on the next glacier. We can't wait for it to come that way. The stuff is going to be happening very, very fast. The shifts that are going to happen, like all the social media tools, all the things we're seeing, are not going to look the same next year, and in 5 years you won't recognize them. As Blockbuster declared bankruptcy and closed the rest of its stores yesterday, we see what happens with streaming media. We see what happens with every technology. When you can put on 8 MOOCs, massively open online courses at the University of Toronto, I'm building one on advocacy and influence to be offered for free to everybody. You can join in next spring. The MOOCs at the University of Toronto, only 8 of them had 800,000 people attend them. That's half of all the alumni who've ever been to the University of Toronto. The predictions are that 25 to 35% of all the universities in North America will be bankrupt within 10 years if they don't change because of the MOOC change. So what are your strategies for change? You're a change agent. How are you going to make sure that information and learning and research survive and your institutional presence survives when your host and your profit margin comes from first and second year, gets totally disintermediated by nationally accredited. In the U.S., they've already approved MOOCs for national accreditation, so you can get a credit for MOOC courses in first and second year. Fundamental shift in the business model of the university. And we can't think like Dorothy. I love The Wizard of Oz, and that girl, oh God. Like, there's this wonderful city, there's the future, awesome Emerald City. No place like home, no place like home. Wouldn't the past be great? And I see this in libraries all the time. You silly woman. Home is a dust bowl. Your aunt and uncle, you're an orphan. Your aunt and uncle locked you out of a root cellar when a tornado was coming. And the witch in town wants to kill your daughter. No place like home? I prefer a positive vision of the future. The old quote is, the best way to predict the future is to invent it ourselves. Are we actors in the creation of the future we want? Or are we victims of a future that steamrollers over us because of the business interests of Google or Blackboard or edX or Coursera changing the dynamics? So what strategies are you doing in the competitive context of what's going on now? We can't have these discussions, these black and white discussions. The stupidest discussions going on in our world of libraries right now is, will e-books replace print books? Oh, for God's sake. No. It's not. professionals. Hybrid matrix of how we're going to organize information and how are we going to adapt to all the formats that are there. We don't get to make a choice of an all-digital library or an all-print library. That would be stupid. We need to make the strategies around how this plays. But the library's warehouse is very different from the library's experience. And the library of experience does not have a wall. It does not have the pieces of just saying it's enough to have the information out there. One thing to say, gee, everybody has Google, but we have people searching their drugs on Google, not realizing that the first 100 pages of search results were written by the drug companies, undertaken by a company called Direct Media that charges the drug companies to give you the drug information. Your libraries have the quality databases on drug interactions. They do not want to tell you that that diet pill is going to give you anal leakage, or that headache pill is going to give you suicidal thoughts. Not good marketing. So they use the internet to manipulate the way things are. Or we have librarians sitting there saying, well, let's just do Google Scholar and Google Books because it's free. Why on earth would we privilege free over good? Since when was that part of the value system of librarianship as the only thing we consider? Google's creating Google Scholar and Google Books to attract the 18 to 30-year-old marketplace where they can charge 4 times more per click. Because that dynamic is worth more. I buy the geotagging on Google to change the search engine results because I can buy the geotagging for every university and college campus in North America and change the search engine results on campus. You all know that your search engine results are different on campus than at home. That's how Google works. If it's your biggest competitors, you obviously know and teach the Google business model versus your business model. I've had librarians tell me at Gale and ProQuest and Thomson, couldn't you just work like Google? I said, yeah, that'd be great. Now, if I sell my search engine results on this database to this racist organization, or this drug company, or this politician, Google just had a banner year because there was a US election. Hundreds of librarians worked on making sure the Google search results were different at the block level. If your neighborhood was black, Hispanic, Cuban, or white. If it was rich or poor, whatever. Because Google will sell search engine relevance and ads based on the components of the neighborhood you live in and the qualities of the site you're on. Are we teaching our students that? Or are we saying, gee, Google Scholar must have an advertising basis to it ultimately, it's still in its beta mode? Or are we going to fall into the free is better? The world is shades of gray. More than public library circulation, which saved them last year. But shades of gray are quite different. Libraries have color to them. Libraries are way more important than that. We're not just black and white text. We're all the shades and colors of the rainbow. We're plaid. We're paisley. We have a very, very complex service proposition, and we don't tell our story well enough, or we try and tell our story by ourselves instead of encouraging our users to do the testimonials and stories that are needed. And we need to exercise some of our muscles that aren't so good. We are not fit enough on leadership, communication, advocacy, influence, and talking vertically with people. Talking to our users, understanding our users, and talking to our funders and our politicians and the policymakers. We're really good at talking to each other. More to the people we serve and the people we support. We have a future. I was promised rocket packs. I didn't get it. I can make one of these for my kids out of a Coke bottle. I didn't get my flying car. But you can look at this and say, this is not the best design. Because you put it on, you turn it on, and it burns your ass off. It's not, we can influence that. We did get 3D printing. This is a Iraq War veteran who had half his face scanned, and the 3D printer made an exact map to fit onto the side of his face so his life could improve. This is 3D printed skin through someone's general, or if it was a 3D printed car. In the Netherlands, they're printing a house in 3D. Fundamental shift. Is your library ready for databases full of three-dimensional objects? I was involved in a negotiation with the Smithsonian Institution, one of the biggest museums in the world, and Gale and Cengage Learning acquired the rights to every object in 3D printing in those museums. I had the people up to Toronto on a symposium showing how the 3D scanning and printing every object in the museum with iPhones and able to do amazing things with it to change research. Is your library ready for the next generation of content? You're good at text. You're really good at text. You're getting better at streaming media and podcasts. You've got real challenges dealing with 3D objects in the next generation. I'm a diabetic, and my iPhone tracks all of my glucose levels, and it emails it to my world. 90% of doctors now use apps. If you're doing medical education, is your library supporting the doctors where they are and the change that's shifted with mobile? The disruptions we've got coming. Online databases we dealt with, internet we dealt with, web we dealt with, e-learning we're getting there. If every single person in the library in an academic setting can't use your e-learning system, you have a problem. When we first got the web, we assigned 1 or 2 people who were younger usually to learn the web. And said, oh, it's going to be their job. Now it's everybody's job. Don't wait so long to make sure everybody understands e-learning. It is the infrastructure for the education framework, not the research framework for your institution. E-books? Are you ready? Like, all e-books and fiction are always going to look like a book because books are an immersive experience from end to end. E-books and non-fiction, not going to look the same. The almost 1 million e-books in Gale can be exploded, combined with any article. You can take out any chapter and paragraph and create a format-agnostic ebook in any format that can be read on any device. You've already done this once before. You don't care about runs of journals anymore and bound periodicals. The bound periodical collection is a nice quiet space where students can go and net. Because no one goes there anymore. We've gone to an article-level economy on articles. Non-fiction books, you don't read usually from end to end. You read the chapter, the paragraph, the segment of especially scholarly works. So when we explode the ebooks, and then what are ebooks and e-textbooks going to look like? When you embed video in the page, testing, when you can tell if the students read the homework. This is what Gale Cengage Learning has got $100 million in reinventing the way the textbook's going to look. They'll sell you an electronically wrapped textbook for way cheaper than the print book. But obviously, every new technology just takes the old technology and makes it digital. That's not the way it's going to end. It's just the first spark on a path of reinvention and innovation. Big difference. The cloud? Are we delivering value to end users backing up servers at every university and college and public library? No. Should we be doing it 60 to 80% cheaper? Yes. Is the cloud the opportunity? Yes. What are we putting in the cloud, how are we doing it, and how are we connecting it? And when you look at the cloud metadata that Sharon was describing yesterday, from DPLA, Europeana, OCLC WorldShare, most of the major publishers, Gale, ProQuest, EBSCO, Reed, Elsevier, have put their metadata into WorldShare. So there is now one source for the proprietary metadata to write an API to. DPLA is taking all the free metadata and putting it into a metadata vault in the cloud that you can write APIs to. So if you've got dozens or hundreds of repositories in your library that you've helped build, that you're proud of, that are unique, that are undiscoverable because it's a little archipelago of content that sits there as part of the dark web because no one can find it, the very first thing you should do is extract the metadata and get it launched into DPLA so it's discoverable. I go into some university campuses, there's 600 repositories written to maybe 150 different standards. It's an awful, horrible mess. And one of the opportunities is getting global metadata vaults so that your culture is represented in the global culture, so that your unique content is part of the record and discoverable. That's real discovery. How do we do it? You all know that mobile changed everything. 20 years later, all these devices are in my pocket, on my iPhone, on my Android. So can we make transformational change? Are your statistics measuring transactions at your library? Gig count, circulation, interlibrary loans? Or are they measuring transformation? Until you start measuring transformation, the impact you have, and until you get off the comprehensive, let's keep track of everything bandwagon and start doing sampling and research on things that underpin the strategies you want funding for, you're not going to get the funding for it. Because you're not making the right argument and telling the right story. So how do we help everyone source their force? Why does that chemist do that chemistry? Well, we get to the articles, we counted the number of articles we get them. Did you say the impact that person had on finding a cure for diabetes? That's the kind of impact we want to talk about. Did you make a difference from his point of view or her point of view? Can we contribute to everyone's self-actualization? That's about learning, right? Can we create dynamic resources and experiences in the library that create a graduate student that our product moves out there into the world as a great business person, as a great teacher, as a great researcher, as a great whatever you're training people for, such that they make a difference in the world because the library helped them become better. Print was hard too. Real hard. We're really good at it. That's why Amazon and Google Books use the OCLC database as their backbone. Librarians created the backbone for the things that are changing the dynamics of how the book world works, because we know how to do that stuff. What are we going to create as the backbone? Like the last time we cooperated on a global scale was 1972 for OCLC. Are we going to create a backbone on DPLA for databases and Europeana and OCLC World Share? Are we going to create a backbone for reference questions? Is every library going to continue saying, let's do RefWorks training and show a student how to do 300 different ways to cite? That's the equivalent of kicking a kid in the deep end of the pool who can't swim. If you haven't surveyed all of your professors and said, what's your preferred citation method? And absolutely know what citation method you should be teaching. Is the English department a Chicago Manual of Style, or are they Terrain? Is the science department scientific notation, or whatever? What are your top 5 citation formats? And then are you using your e-learning system to build a replicable e-learning piece? I was at one university with 300,000 students, was very proud that they put 25,000 students through their citation training in classrooms and in one-on-ones. Now that's pretty good, but the mark would be an F in any classroom. That's a definite F. You got 25 out of 300. That's a failure. How do you get 100% of students through that? Are you going to continue hand-knitting all those reference training transactions, and citation training transactions? Or are you going to build targeted tools that you're going to put in the e-learning object or on the Department of Mineralogy website saying this department prefers this? Do you know your data, or do you just intuit it? It's not hard to do a little survey monkey with as many professors as you can get to fill it out. So what are the big mega trends? First of all, decide if you're a librarian or an educator or a researcher, and what paths you're taking. Are you running a library, or are you running an intervention on learning and discovery and creativity and making patents in your institution? Are you support or mission critical? What gets cut? Support or mission critical? Who has to defend their budget? Who gets money thrown at them? Mission critical. Understand transformational impact on research and transformational impact on learning. And I say learning because it's a verb. Education is something you do to somebody. Learning is something they do for themselves. Learning, continuous learning, lifelong learning. That's what we're training people for. People are going to have 6 to 8 jobs for their entire lives. It requires them to be continually reinventing themselves. Your new competitors are non-traditional. MOOCs, who would have predicted that 2 years ago? Now MOOCs are 18 months old, transforming the world of education. They're not fully grown up yet. But you cannot look at a 3-year-old and say, throw it back, it's a lousy accountant. We have to we can't throw babies out with bathwater. We have to study them and understand what arc are they going to take, how many hundreds of millions and billions are being thrown at the education industry right now. A lot. A whole lot. Learn how to do influence and selling. PR is just PR, that's just old library thinking. You sell things, and people pay with time, prestige, and the success in their lives. It may not be with money, but they're paying with things that they value more highly. And time and money are different. Library staff competencies need a plateau upgrade. What are you training your staff to do? We cannot fix the problem, our challenge, with new graduates. I'm on the board of 6 different library schools. They're working hard to make change happen there. And they're all taking different paths and innovating on different levels. But we only graduate a few thousand librarians a year. That's not going to make change. We also, at the same time, have to change the people who are in our space. And we have to deal with the black holes of emotion that some of us have on our staff, who suck the life out of every meeting and every strategy we try and do. We have to start having the courage to sit there and say, if you're going to criticize, you have to constructively criticize. You have to offer a solution. It is not critical thinking to sit there and say something is wrong with something. It's just being pitchy. If you cannot, you engage your brain to talk about this would be a better project, or the problem with this project is, and here's how we might improve it or change it. That's the culture we need in libraries. And one of the things that happens with strong, intelligent, critical thinking people, like our fields, is the ones who get burned out move back into a very depressive, negative mode. And it's our responsibility as leaders to open up their minds again and get them listened to and contributing, or fire them. This is not our problem. Our problem is thinking that we don't have it. Money is the measurement of the support and engagement you have. It's only a measurement. If they like your strategies, if they engage with you, if you convince them and engage them, money will flow. I don't know any university president who does not have an English slush fund that they can reapportion, or where you can engage people in different things. And we can't go around saying we're going to make our catalog more electronic. Putting a mouse on the catalog, it's not engaging. People don't want to search catalogs. Yes, that's what we see. That's not what they want to do. People do not want to search. They want to find, and then they want to use and discover. And we need to start talking about how that supports usage and discovery. So if everybody doesn't have their catalog optimized with the Google books and other APIs from Amazon to make all your books full-text searchable, we have to pay attention. What happened with articles when we don't index them as much as we use full-text search? What's going to happen with books when they all become full-text searchable? Within 2 years, every book prior to 1926 will be digitized. Gail's got the NECO project, we've got ECHO, we've got EBO. Yes, there's some fringes that are still going to be left out of the edges. But what's that going to do to your 18th, 19th century scholars and how they work? And how is that going to change your catalog? Being able to full-text search every book. We can't just say ebooks are going to be the solution. Because all we're doing with ebooks right now is making them discoverable and downloading them. We're not making them an immersive discovery process. So when we think of nonfiction versus fiction, most of our researchers aren't reading fiction to find insight. Some of them are. There's some disciplines that do that. But nonfiction behaves differently. And who cares if it's a chapter of a book or a periodical article? Who cares? Why are our databases on our website shelved the way we need to shelve them when they're a physical copy. If they're learning Shakespeare, the Shakespeare videos, the Shakespeare criticisms, the Shakespeare plays, the Shakespeare scripts, the Shakespeare biographies should all be in one freaking spot. We do not care about shelving the digital world. We care about the mind map and the experience of discovery. We're not teaching people to find things. We're teaching people to critically think and immerse themselves in information to discover thinking processes that they can take out into the world. And we build that for nanotechnology, stem cell research, and human genome. Big difference. It's our biggest opportunity to create experience portals, not information portals. Sure, the early stages of information portals need to look like the library shelf. What does a real knowledge portal, experience portal look like? It looks like something that changes the dynamics of how I learn and discover. There's an opportunity here. I don't know if you know the North American expression, deer caught in headlamp of a car. Librarians tend to study things to death. We have lots of good studies now, put on by some of the smartest thinkers, like Lord Dempsey. I admire so much because he's a great thinker at OCL systems. But librarians have to realize that studying things to death is wrong. Death is not our goal. Our goal is thriving. And if we want to thrive, we need to start experimenting, piloting, trying things. And we need to look at others who are doing it and doing the critical thinking. When Multnomah County shelved all their books differently like a bookstore, you thought the library world had gone a Harry Knitchen thing. Oh my God, this is the end of library. And they're going, well actually, they reduced their stock by 20% and increased circulation by 40%. Nothing is sadder than a book on the shelf. They got the books out there. So my little critical thinking brain says, what do we learn from it? Some books do well shelved with spine out. Some books do well face out. Some databases do well because they've got great branding. But you go to Stanford University with thousands of databases. How do we build discovery systems to find the right databases? We can teach them to search. If they don't know where to search, it's a problem. And how do we name our databases? As stupidly as possible. Let's call it MLA, because that's the best Shakespeare database. Oh, maybe if you knew it stood for Modern Languages Association, you knew that meant Shakespeare. Of course it doesn't. It's a stupid name for a database. ABI Inform. Does that mean it's the best business database? Yeah, it is. But it's a terrible brand name. You do not need to be using the brand names to create your experiences. You can use targeted federated search and discovery systems. You can pull it together and you can make a discovery system that actually supports case studies in an MBA curriculum or supports marketing research and make it work. We do not need to organize ourselves and say, here's a grocery store, now cook something. We've got a bunch of people who can't cook. So, the world's going to change whether you like it or not. You can go off into the mountains here and live like a hermit. Or, I often have librarians say, well, I'm 60 years old, I've only got 5 years to go to retirement, I don't need to change. Please leave now. If you're saying that, if you can't stay excited about how awesome we are, the difference we make, then don't stay in our profession, because you're a freaking boganger. What I want you to do is remember that even if you retire at 65, you look in the death notices of librarians in our professional literature, like American Libraries or Library Journal, we die at 95 or 100. We live a long time. Turn to book dust. I don't even think we got it. That's 30 years of retirement. If you think you can escape change by retiring, you haven't thought it through. Now I want you to go back 30 years. There was no internet, really. There was no web, there was no YouTube, no Google, no Alta Vista, no nothing. You have to all that change. Do you really think that for your retirement it's not going to change again? And you're not going to have to adapt. So, polish up your change skills. Library's key skill is not delivering information. Google does that better than us. Google answers as many questions in half an hour as all the librarians in the world answer in 50 years. We used to have people saying, if we just catalog the internet, current estimates are it would take 1,000 years to catalog it using our systems. So I don't think we're a scalable solution. We know algorithms work better. We know we can use algorithms that work from user experience rather than the commercially driven algorithms that Google uses to source advertising and stuff on. So when you look at the projects we did at Gale, where we analyzed 3 billion user interactions with Gale databases, we found fundamentally different behaviors in the end users there than the way the algorithm at Google works. We improved the quality of user experience and improved the quality of questions. So if you look at all your projects in your strategic plan, are they doing that? Or are they making the librarian's life easier? How many of your projects are dealing with the pain points of librarians and not professors and students? And if you put it through that filter, you can evaluate how good your strategic plan is and how focused it is on success. Libraries are about building life competencies. And life is work, entertainment, play, enjoyment. And libraries have seasons. I like to think that libraries are in a spring, not a winter. Our trees are leafing. We are coming back to a new place. And we need to start talking about our magic skills. We make librarianship look magical. They don't see all the work that goes in behind to make that identification of that resource good. They just get a better experience. They don't see all that happens in your head when they ask a reference question. We make it look like we know how to pull that book off the shelf. You need to start talking about, when you're doing a reference question or talking to key funders, about what happens in your professional skills. Doctors and lawyers will tell you, my education tells me I need to tell you this. And we seem to shy away from that. We don't say, well, in my best judgment, I've chosen these 3 articles, but here's an article that's a little bit contradictory. And represent our judgment well. Instead of, here's the transaction, I just made a photocopy for you. That's not good. That doesn't want them to invest or pay us more. We have to be friendly. That goldfish is cute. But keep wearing your shark hat. Because the sharks are the top of the ecosystem in the oceans. So in an information ocean, who should be at the top of that ecosystem? And how do you behave like a shark? You don't eat everybody you pass. You just get the ones you don't want to be around. And we need to do some risk taking. We're not real good at risk. We're big risk avoiders. This guy will be happier when someone joins him. But how do we move out there? How do we respect and celebrate the leaders who are out there doing stuff that's transformational? We see it in our field all the time, and I know the feedback they get. The man who led the RDA team to build RDA got non-stop crap showered on him for years. And now everybody gets it. They process the information. But Tom went through hell. The digital risk bar is higher. But we can correct our mistakes. I said to some folks earlier, doctors get to bury their mistakes, so we still respect them. Publishers put a book out there, the mistake lasts forever in libraries around the world. Digital helps. Make a mistake, fix it. It's a new thing. So, how do we get around the changes in our culture? Our leadership task is to avoid our conflict avoidance. We had people here yesterday bemoan the understanding of the Mexican government and the state governments in understanding what Mexican libraries contribute. Whose fault is that? What conflict are you avoiding? Where's your team trained? We trained a team of 1,500 professionals in Canada on advocacy, and we take them in small teams. Last year, we took 300 librarians onto Parliament Hill and met with 150 members of Parliament, cabinet ministers, the Prime Minister, and senior parliamentary senators. This year, we got 2 pieces of legislation that mattered to us through Parliament for the first time in years, because we took control. We trained ourselves. They weren't allowed to whine. They weren't allowed to complain. They were trained to listen. But they had their talking points, and we stayed focused on our values and got what we needed. We need to get rid of the passive resistance in our profession. Quietly denying without talking about it. You might have seen some of this in your library. We upgraded the system. Well, I'm not going to do it that way. We took 15 steps. Updated the library loan process. Oh no, it's important. I don't want the computer to do it. Or I know one library that had a 3-year cataloging backlog because they didn't trust OCLC cataloging. So I had the librarian take a long weekend, hire a bunch of students, and shelve all the books. The librarians came in, freaked and peeked, and started yelling. And then we said, you're fine. We can unshelve all those books. All you have to do is write a report to me by the end of the week on the strategy behind why you're keeping millions of dollars of resources out of the hands of our researchers and not just protecting your jobs. You think that Gina Library's got a report? The book stayed on the shelf, they entered the system. Okay. Perfect storm is hitting libraries. I'm getting to 0, so I'm going to slide through a few slides here and talk about how you represent libraries. If libraries were marketing this, they would call it smelly yellow liquid instead of sex appeal, instead of attractiveness. I sprayed my Armani on this morning because it made me feel more confident. I feel better about myself, no matter whether no one's going to get close enough for me to smell what I smell like. But we've got to stop marketing books and start marketing the impact of libraries. We've got to start using big data, qualitative and quantitative data, measurements, and start selling the song we're singing. Not the structure of the song, not the representation of the song, the actual song that causes a meter. And we got to not sell the metadata. That's what that song looks like. We got to stop selling the grocery store. We got to start selling the cookbooks. We got to start selling the stars of our libraries, the chefs. We got to remember that our users want a meal, and are we delivering the meals we want? So, what are your priorities? How are you leading? How are you following? And how do you make that work? So, this is already up on Stephen's Lighthouse, and it lists all the big changes that are coming. I wasn't planning on putting this up, so don't worry, there's something I need to read it later. Changes in attitude. This kid changes a lot. You're never more confident than when you're 3, right? Find your inner toddler. For aspirations, to be more open to change. If we're in spring, are we in the pupa? And then support your team. Get rid of that guy. Keep that guy. Believe in the tradition. We have an awesome tradition. All of our foundations are good. I'm not criticizing what went before. But we need to curate the future. We're not curating the past. How do we invent a future that's going to make a difference? Let's be inspirational under that justice. Let's breathe into our users and not just breathe into our users, not just breathe into ourselves. Tell your story. Until the lion learns to tell their own story, the stories will always be from the perspective of the hunter, not the hunted. What business are you in? What's the sign over your reference desk? And don't study things to death. I don't want to be digging up, I'm an anthropologist, I don't want to be digging up librarians years from now and finding these skeletons with their head up their butt because they didn't change. We have such an opportunity. We are so awesome. We know stuff that's just incredible. We have the perspectives. We care. There's no other profession that has information and knowledge and service and intelligence and technology all in the same package. You have to sit by the side of the river a very long time before a roast duck will fly into your mouth. And that's it. Thank you.